Good afternoon. While waiting, may we request everyone to fill out the form for attendance. The link is posted in the chat box. Thank you. Okay, good afternoon. Were you all able to fill out the G form for attendance? The link is posted in the chat box. Meanwhile, I'll just conduct a tech check. Can everyone hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Yes,
Miss.
Miss.
Yes, thank you. And can everyone see the presentation? Wait. Miss Angel. Okay, there.
Yes,
Can
po.
everyone see the presentation flashed on the screen?
Yes,
Okay,
Miss.
thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you. And let me just go over a few reminders before we begin. Kindly mute your microphone. Be mindful of your background noise. Position your camera properly if you're going to speak and open your video. Limit distractions and try to avoid multitasking. So we'll be starting in a few minutes. We're just waiting for the others to come in. Thank you. Good afternoon once again, and welcome to our session on effective feedback giving to parents. So let us begin this afternoon's session with an opening prayer to be led by Miss Jane Villaseñor.
Afternoon, let's put ourselves in the holy presence of God in the name of the Father, and of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, Lord, for bringing us together today. Thank you for the gifts of life, happiness, family, friends, friendship, and work. Thank you for our students and for their parents who have entrusted their children to us. As we meet their parents soon, may we always remember that they are our partners in raising and developing the next generation to be God-loving children. Grant me an understanding mind and a listening heart as we discuss what will bring out the best in our children. All these we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Miriam of Nazareth, teach us your ways and lead us to Jesus. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Miss Jane. So to formally welcome everyone, may I call on our Director for Basic Education, Miss Maria Luella Tampinco, for her opening remarks.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Marite. I hope everyone can hear me all right. So good afternoon, everybody. It's a Friday. It's our first Friday back after the wellness break, and I hope everyone is feeling well. And welcome to our first of a series of sessions organized by the Special Program Coordinator or Special Project Coordinator on Student Wellness, Ms. Lagunera. So congratulations on your pilot run, Marite. So today we start with giving feedback. Today we start with giving feedback to parents, and you might find that it's a roundabout way of approaching student wellness. But we all have to recognize that at this time of pandemic, the students are with their parents and their families 24/7. So I think it's a good way to start off our efforts to improve student wellness by, of course, giving feedback to the people who have been with the students at the very beginning of the pandemic. So I hope that we find this session productive, helpful, and something that will help make our work easier at this time, especially when we are preparing for our first parent-teacher conferences, because we have to give feedback to them about student performance in the first quarter. So I wish everyone a pleasant afternoon. Again, I welcome you all back, and I hope that we'll be able to get this input and take this input and use it during the upcoming parent conferences. Thank you very much. By the way, hi, Candy. Candy and I went to college together, so it's good to see you.
Hi, nice to see you again, Louie.
All right. Thank you. Have a good session, everybody.
Thank you, Miss Louie. So before we begin, allow me to read our objectives for today's session. So at the end of this session, hopefully we will all identify ways on giving concrete feedback to parents about each student and to recognize the virtue of compassion in giving feedback, to acknowledge the importance of constancy and consistency in giving feedback, and to practice positive feedback giving that would benefit our students' well-being. So at this point, let me now introduce our resource speaker. Christina Rowena S. Padilla, or Miss Candy, is a licensed professional teacher for the past 26 years, a proud product of Maryknoll Miriam College from CSC to high school. She is now back in Miriam College as a college lecturer in the School of Arts, Sciences, and Education, where she teaches undergraduate and graduate courses in child development education and inclusive and special needs education. As a reading specialist and a board member of the Philippine Dyslexia Foundation, she works with children, adolescents, and adults with learning and reading disabilities and has had extensive experience in developing literacy programs, providing literacy assessment and instruction, as well as in conducting teacher training sessions. Miss Candy earned her bachelor's degree in elementary education, special education from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and a Master of Arts degree in psychology, child and family development from Ateneo de Manila University. She is currently taking up a doctorate studies in reading education back in UP Diliman. She has co-authored a textbook and a course module for tertiary levels on inclusive and special education. She also works as a learning support consultant in a co-ed private school in Marikina and is a resource speaker on faculty development and parenting seminars. fellow teachers, and colleagues. Let's give Miss Candy a warm virtual applause.
Thank you very much, Miss Marita.
You're
Good
welcome.
afternoon, everybody and colleagues. Hello, can you see my screen now? Just quick tech check. Yes, all right.
Yes, Miss Candy.
All right, thank you. Okay, one more time, good afternoon, everybody. So thank you, Miss Marita, for inviting me this afternoon. And even if this is required, thank you for joining us. Okay, so this afternoon, we'll have a discussion on giving effective feedback to parents. So as you know, we always begin with a check-in, right? So a bit of sensing to find out how everyone is doing. So I invite everyone to share with us through the chat box, what is your note to yourself today? Okay, so yes, it's Friday and it's the start of the weekend, but some of us still have work tomorrow. Nonetheless, what is your note to yourself today? For me, if I'd be honest, I would say, carry mo yan. Okay? In other words, you can handle this and you can do it. So that's my note to myself for the past weeks. How about you? So in the chat box, please share with us what your note to yourself is. Love yourself. Wonderful. Sir Resty, don't forget to eat on time. Absolutely. That's part of self-care. Di ba? Be happy, relax. Good job. Okay, when we say good job, we also give ourselves physically, no, pat on the back. Love yourself. Pace yourself. Isa-isa lang magiging maayos din ang lahat. I can so agree. And my namesake, hello, Candy. I would tell my kids one task at a time. And when I tell them that I'm so overwhelmed with everything that needs to be done, my daughter would say, Mom, one task at a time. Okay, that is so important. You are allowed to rest. There you go. So I invite, I like this, laban lang self. Okay. So yes, I invite everyone to read through the different notes to ourselves. Yeah, because we might get, nuggets of wisdom and encouragement here. Okay, makakahabol ka din. Thank God it's Friday. You know, when I asked the undergrads, when I used this with my undergrad class, somebody even said, 11:11, malapit na. Okay, that's their note to their self. They're getting ready for online shopping. All right, so thank you so much. It shows me here that, yeah, we need to keep encouraging ourselves. Alert level 2. Awesome. Okay, so thank you for sharing. And so now this afternoon, sige, type lang just continue typing. So this afternoon, we will share about these things. Okay, what is effective parent teacher conference? So I know that the webinar is designed for giving feedback, but while yes, that is important, to be able to give effective feedback, we have to see the big picture first, right? So we have to understand a parent teacher conference. What do we communicate to parents? What are the different strategies, and how do we facilitate PTCs before, during, and after? So in this webinar, maybe you may not learn new things, but it will affirm your current practices. And hopefully, we'll be able to reflect on our own and improve on them as well. And it will end with a workshop and presentation. So beginning with the end in mind, right? So we always begin with the assessment. This is what we are expected to do later on. So first, what will you do differently in the way we facilitate or you facilitate PTCs? And how can you and the team prepare for the upcoming PTCs? I understand that would be like, I think, next week. And then later on, share a link of your workshop output. So I didn't use my MC Noller email, so I can just share the link. All right. So um, just as what we've done in the check-in, I'd like for us to make this webinar interactive. So I'm not the expert, I'm just sharing my experiences. I know that all of you have your own experiences and are also experts in your own field. And therefore, whenever you see this chat box, this chat icon, please share your insights via the chat box. Okay, so if you're game to make this webinar interactive, type OK in the chat box. Again, if you're okay with making this interactive and really making sure that we participate, please type OK in the chat box. And there you go. Okay, awesome. So I hope even if you're multitasking, you're still able to participate. Okay, let's continue. So let's begin with a bit of reflection. So reflect on our experiences. I'd like for you to share what are some of your best practices in facilitating PTCs. right? Okay, so hang on. What I'll do is, hang on. So I've prepared the Mentimeter. Okay, hang on. Okay, I will stop sharing first. One moment. Okay, there. That was tough. My laptop hung for a bit. Okay, hang on. So quickly, yeah. Okay, hold on. Yeah. So let me just get quickly the Mentimeter link. So here in the chat box, kindly share with us your best practices. Okay. What has worked so far when you facilitate parent-teacher conferences? So Mentimeter, you can submit as many, I think, input or insights, and probably we'll spend a minute or two so that we can share our best practices. Okay. Okay. I see the results. Hang on. I see some who are responding already. Thank you. All right. I see, I smile. That is so important. Yeah. Less talk, listen more. Thank you for sharing that. So later on, we'll see that we'll have to use active listening. Talking less, I would say 50-50. That is also important because while, yes, we do need to listen to the parents, we also have to be able to share our insights and our feedback. Excellent. Prepare record book as part of your evidence. Be an active listener. Smile and just listen to, yes, irate parents. Sandwich, important. The letters made by my students for their parents is always the highlight of the PTC. The parents appreciate it. That's a wonderful idea to do that. I remember back in the grade school days in Maryknoll, yeah, we would also prepare letters and, so that when the parents come in, they'll be able to see that. So it's great that you're still doing that. Sharing specific behavioral observations instead of vague descriptions of the child. Kalma lang, correct. Okay, before and after PTCs. Provide positive note, sharing the works of their children. Be cordial, definitely. We have to be respectful at all times. Prepare the relevant materials at least a week before. Okay, before keeping a list of students in the care list. Excellent. Active listening. All right. So thank you. I see here that we're able to share effective practices in facilitating PTCs, right? So it's not include, first of all, there's body language, there's eye contact. So even if it's a virtual PTC, it's important that we also look at the camera so that the parents would really feel that we're talking to them. And then also provide evidence, be ready with the feedback, and keeping a positive attitude. All right. Okay, so keep them coming. And so now let's go back to my presentation. Okay, thank you. All right. I'm struggling with Zoom. I am sorry, but I can do this. Okay. One moment. So with that, we see that you're able to share effective practices. Okay, here we go. And so from there, let's continue on with. Ah, yeah, okay. Thank you. Just be genuine. That's true. So let's continue now with what exactly is an effective PTC. So according to Graham and Clay, right? We know that an effective parent-teacher conference is an opportunity to create a successful partnership. And although, yeah, it's a successful partnership, but it may also cause undue anxiety for both teachers and parents. Teachers, we know because we really have to prepare. Sometimes we cannot anticipate what parents will ask, right? And then as for parents, also, they may feel anxious because they're also uncertain, or they may probably are worried about the negative or constructive feedback that they will receive about their children's performance. It's also important that we view PTC as an opportunity to discuss what is working. So, as mentioned, right, in the best practices that you shared, it's not just about reporting problems, right? But we also use the opportunity to share and celebrate their strengths and their successes, no matter how small they are. And also, we know that parent involvement is most effective when it's viewed as partnership. And so it's necessary that we see them, right, as partners. We understand that. But yes, it's true that there might be some parents who may be a little bit difficult to handle. And yes, and when that happens, it's important for us to understand that they are still our partners and they're actually the experts when it comes to their children. All right. So now that we understand what effective parent teacher conference is, I'd like to ask, what do parents want to hear from us in PTCs? Right. So many of us have had years of experience attending and conducting parent teacher conferences. What do they usually ask? In the chat box, can you share? What questions do you usually get during PTCs? Okay, let's have a minute or two to share. So one more time, what questions do they usually ask? What are their expectations from us during PTCs? All right, Miss Carmela, how's my daughter? Such a big, simple question, but it's huge, right? And you have to be able to answer that well. I was a bit disappointed, like when I had a PTC for my son, and the advisor goes, "Mommy, he's okay." And that's it. Okay, so we know we don't do that. So yes, how's my daughter? We have to be able to answer that well. How can we help our child? Yes, that's often what they ask, right? Given everything, all the feedback that they've given, where do we go from here now? What do we do to help our child? How is my daughter doing in class? Bawi pa ba? Yes, that is so important, especially in the first quarter, right? For children who are struggling in specific subjects and who probably received low grades, yeah, they would always want to ask, makakabawi pa ba? And I think that's important. There's that growth mindset that yes, we can still do something about it. And parents also need to understand that, ba? Okay, if even if they only need to know the performance and behavior, they still ask how. Yes, that is so true. They always ask how their child is in relation to other students, and for some reason, parang benchmarking with other students. No, now that can be tricky because there would be schools that would say we do not compare. We just celebrate how the child is, right, and celebrate his or her uniqueness. But yeah, others naman would actually give ranking. In the school where my children, when my son went, they'd actually have the ranking posted on the blackboard. So is that good practice? I'm not sure. Okay. So how does she participate? There you go. See, so given all these questions, then we know how to prepare, right? And so here, these are some of the questions. So these actually support what you have shared in the chat box. So maybe for the expectations part, these things they'll already find out through the parent orientation and maybe through the MC handbook. But they would oftentimes, yes, as you mentioned, ask about their performance, their social and behavioral skills as well. So an example would be, yeah, what is my child doing well? What does my child struggle with in class? What are the problems that my child has in those areas? And then, like what you said, what can I do to support your instruction? And then in terms of social behavioral, they want to find out how is my daughter or how is my child getting along with his peers or with her peers? Is she able to participate in group work? Maybe now it's a bit of a challenge because it's an ODL setup. Nonetheless, they would have right opportunities to actually mingle with their peers. And importantly, are there any opportunities to improve their behavior? So there's always that question of moving forward, right? And that's also important in giving feedback. So now that we know what the expectations are from parents, then it's necessary for us to come prepared, right? So we keep in mind the holistic development. Yes, we will report or we will share about their child's academic performance. But it's also important, of course, that we look into or we share about their social emotional skills. Maybe for the older students, their work behavior. I would even include metacognitive skills and even self regulation, especially for junior high school, right? When they should be able to manage themselves already. And we'd also like to share about what has been going well or what has been working and what isn't working or going well. See, so yes, we want to share strengths. We want to make feedback constructive, but we also have to be honest about, what the challenges are or what the difficulties are of their children. So let's move on to the different strategies. First of all is let us reflect on our beliefs about parents. So I appreciate the prayer earlier. I saw there that we acknowledge that parents are our partners because that's so important, right? Now, for parents, we've had our share of quote unquote difficult parents, right? The ones who would get upset only because they really care about their child or they're really passionate about what they believe in. Well, we need to understand that when we enter the PTC or when we enter that conversation with parents, that parents are products of their own social cultural background, just like us, right? So they have their reasons why they are that way. And so we don't want to psychoanalyze them, but it's just important for us to accept that, right? So there would be parents who are very supportive. Yay. Okay. If they are very supportive, but there would also be parents who would use tiger parenting, helicopter parenting, right? Lawnmower would be lawnmower parenting are those who would just remove all hurdles, all obstacles just to make it easy or more manageable for their child. And the free range would be the ones who use permissive parenting. So why are they that way? They are a product of their own social cultural background. So that's why when we enter that conversation with parents, we have to respect that, right? So there's a question, for example, what do we do with parents who are grade conscious? We can't just change them like that during one PTC, right? At most, I suppose what we can do is, of course, plant the seed, right? We explain that, yeah, the grades will not be everything. It is important, but there are other areas that can also be developed. Okay. So we have to respect that their background is also diverse. Next, this is interesting. Some parents may view their children as ego extensions of themselves. And this is the reason why some parents get very uh, reactive, right? They get very defensive when they're told negative feedback or constructive feedback about their child, because what we tell the child is like, or like how the child is would be a reflection of how they are as a parent. And that is so true. I'm a parent as well. So what's that quotation? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Or in Filipino, kung ano ang puno, siya ang bunga. Right? So, and that's why we also have to be very objective, right? And also respectful when we give feedback. And maybe this is also the reason why parents would, di ba, post on FB the awards, the trophies, and all that. So while they're celebrating their child's successes, makes me wonder, are they also celebrating their own success? Because it's a reflection of effective parenting there. So we have to understand that as well, right? And as mentioned earlier, parents are our partners, and so they are the expert when it comes to their child. As Miss Louis mentioned earlier, right? Children, the parents are with their children 24/7. They're with us, what, an hour, 2, 3 hours during ODL. And so parents know, and they are the experts when it comes to their child. But when it comes to, of course, the academics, then we would be able to share our insights. And that's why there's that partnership. And then finally, this is something I think that we would also need to consider, that not all parents are effective learning partners of their children. Not all parents can be teachers. And that's why so many parents struggle during this pandemic, right? Even teachers themselves. Okay. Some of them do not become effective teachers to their own child. Why? Because dynamics change. It's so much easier to become objective when you're teaching somebody you don't know versus your family member. So I experienced that with my own children. My daughter would say, "But you're not my teacher. I will not follow you." that's, that's crazy, right? But that's just how it is. But with my own kids, yes. So I did teach them until third grade, and I told them by fourth grade you already have to do things on your own. But some parents, those who are very busy and those with, I don't know, different personality, I suppose, or disposition, then they may not be effective, and therefore, again, we accept that and we respect that. We can't force them to be the teacher, so we find a way around that. So later on, no, when go through the different process, the different steps, we would have to respect that and find a solution. Like if they cannot teach their own child, maybe explore one, hiring academic tutors if needed. Maybe there's a family member or a relative who can support their child there. Because when parents are when the parents become so stressed, naturally the children become stressed too, and that would affect the dynamics between the parent and the child, and we don't want that. We're talking about wellness, and that's definitely not going to be, healthy for both mother or father or parent and child. And so oftentimes when I hear parents say this, I would tell them, just be the mom or just be the parent, don't be the teacher anymore, right? Because what happens is the child now avoids the parent because the parent will just keep asking about, oh, how's school? Have you submitted your asynchronous tasks? What's your grade? It's just all about that. And we don't want that, right? And so I usually tell the parent, just leave the teaching to somebody else, but you can monitor. You can probably supervise a bit. But yeah, at least the actual teaching, you can leave that to somebody else or maybe to the other parent. Next would be to practice effective communication skills. So earlier, we saw the smiling, right? The what's this sandwich method there? Those are, and also active listening. So when we have our parent-teacher conferences, important that of course we use daily language in a non-threatening tone. So establishing rapport is very important. Teachers who develop their personal touch in the way they communicate become more effective in establishing positive relationships. So, this personal touch, I would say, these would be the class advisors and the teachers who sincerely care about your child. And I've felt that. Okay, I have two children, so I have felt that. There are teachers, there are class advisors. Both not from Miriam. Okay, so don't worry. But what's this? There are teachers, okay, so for example, for my son, I asked, oh, kamusta po siya? How is he in class? And then, you know what the teacher did? The first thing he did was to look at the record book with a ruler. Okay naman po siya. Pumasa po siya sa quiz. Nakasubmit naman po siya sa lahat. And that's it. And dramatic pause and hoping that he would or she would elaborate further. And there was none. And that was so sad. So I knew that that particular teacher did not know my son well enough. It's just that the record book. Okay, walang kwento, walang anecdote. And on the other, I compare that with another class advisor, my daughter naman. When I went to the PTC, she had her notebook, and I saw different subjects, handwritten notes of how my daughter performed in every subject. And that was amazing. That was the first time I've had a PTC done that way. And then I knew that that's an example of personal touch. I knew that that class advisor sincerely cared about every single student, and they're like what, 40 plus in class. So this is what I mean, right? So we have to show that we care, because when we do, it will just naturally flow. It will just naturally come out. Now, because parents are our partners, it's important that we also seek first to understand them. I saw that in the Mentimeter earlier, di ba? Talk less, listen more. So yes, when they start ranting, just for example, di ba? When they start ranting, expressing their frustrations, we seek first to understand. Yes, because remember, diba, they have their own social cultural backgrounds. They have their own reasons why they're that way. And so we just have to understand them. And along with this, we value their voice and their insight because they are experts when it comes to their children. And we use active listening skills. So earlier we saw active listening skills. So I just like to highlight how does that look like? What are the skills? So we pay attention. We're very good when it comes to paying attention as teachers. We withhold judgment. That means maybe in our head we have talk in our head, like, these opinions, but of course we don't say them and we try to stop them. We reflect, and then we clarify, and we can also, so we ask questions, we can reflect and clarify by asking questions, and then we summarize what has been discussed. So let's go through each one. Examples of active listening would be by reflecting back to the parents what their answers are, and also paraphrasing. So active listening is oftentimes used in counseling and coaching. So our guidance counselors probably know this very well, but we can also use this in parent teacher conferences. And so how do we do that? So we reflect and we paraphrase. We can also ask specific or open-ended questions. So the key here actually in active listening is that when we ask questions, we just allow the person to, make his or own realizations through the questions that we ask. We don't tell them, we don't feed or we don't give an advice, or we don't feed what exactly needs to be done. So here's an example. The parent goes, "My child gets easily distracted during sync classes. I keep reminding her to keep only one tab open, but when I step out and come back, I catch her watching YouTube videos again." So as a teacher, if we will use, or when we use reflection and paraphrasing, we say, "We appreciate you sharing about your child's difficulties. How does this make you feel?" So there, if we want them to reflect on their feelings, so we can ask that question. But if we don't want to go into that road, we can say, "I can see how this can be frustrating for you." So identifying the parents' feelings is also very helpful. And I've experienced this with a very formidable and difficult mother in one PTC. She's the type of parent whom everyone is afraid of, all class advisors are afraid of. And then when they found out that I have a PTC with her, they started telling me good luck. Okay, that kind of parent. And then there you go. So when we started sharing about how it is at home, how frustrating it can be, and when I just said, "I can see just how difficult it is for you being a single parent," because she is, and then how frustrating it is, and just by saying that, she started crying. See, so it's not counseling, but part of active listening is for us to actually hear what they're trying to say and acknowledging those feelings. Well, okay. And we continue on too. It seems that she's having trouble staying focused in class because she gets distracted by what's in the internet. See, so that particular line, this particular sentence is a paraphrase of "my child gets easily distracted." So parang that's why it's reflection. And then when and how often does she do this? What else have you tried to keep her focused during class? There you go. See, so it's a way when we ask specific or open-ended questions, we sort of help her try to figure out reasons and possible solutions. Next would be, okay, so those are the three. Uh, Practice effective, beliefs, okay, reflecting on parent beliefs, practicing effective communication skills, and also using active listening. So given those three strategies, let's now move on to the process in facilitating PTCs and giving feedback. So we'll break this down into before the PTC, during, and after. So before the PTC, like what you've shared in Mentimeter, number one is to prepare notes about each student. So the question is, yes, how do we prepare notes? And that is important, right? So like what I shared earlier with that class advisor who had her notes ready, that was very helpful. Yeah, she had notes from each teacher. What she did was when I asked her, because I had to affirm her, like, "Teacher, I really appreciate the effort and the preparation that you made, no? Kasi this is the first time I've actually encountered this." And then she goes, "Yes, mommy, kasi tinanong ko talaga is bawat teacher for each child." So she really came prepared. And so, yes, oftentimes kasi when we're the class advisor, then we only know about our subject. Siguro during the face-to-face classes, they would also have the opportunity, right, to have meetings or conferences with other subject teachers. We may have that option even if it's virtual PTC, but maybe it's a bit more of a challenge. So at least it's like a one-stop shop. Then the teachers will be able to give feedback about the other subjects as well. And so we gather feedback in terms of strengths and weaknesses. and anecdotes from the different subject teachers. So what other schools have done is to actually have a Google spreadsheet or a Google Doc where teachers can write notes about each student, and class advisors would also write remarks. So I understand you discuss conduct or deportment as a team, as a level, right? So that's the same thing that we do. Whenever we conduct the, whenever we discuss and agree on the conduct grades, then we start talking about the children as well. How is she in your subject? What are some of the challenges? And then we don't end at challenges. That's because that will be problematic if we just say what the difficulties are. We have to extend that and say what worked, right? What worked in addressing those challenges. And then sometimes we get stumped. We don't know anymore what to do. And so we have to get suggestions from other members of the team or from the parents themselves. So here's an example of a class profile template, something that we also use. So we list all the names of the students here. So the class advisor prepares this, and then they share the Google spreadsheet with us. And then there, the teachers give us like a week to prepare this. We just write our notes so that when once we start the meeting to discuss the conduct, it will be so much easier. And so during PTCs, the teacher now has this, the class advisor now has this as his or her reference. Moving on, before the PTC, I understand how much time is allotted for each parent. May I know? Maybe you can just unmute your microphone. Like for this virtual PTCs, how much time is allotted for each? You have 15 minutes, 20
10 minutes, ma'am.
minutes, 10 minutes.
Yes,
Okay,
10 minutes.
10 minutes. And do you get breaks in between? Or is it one after the other? Probably recess and lunch break. Okay, so if it's 10 minutes, then it would be impossible for us to have PTCs for students with special concerns, right? Let's say the ones who are really failing or the ones with behavioral issues. That would not be enough. So I think what would be helpful, what other schools have done, is to schedule special PTCs for such students. So while we will have, for instance, if it's going to be next Saturday, while we will have the regular PTCs next Saturday, we schedule ahead of time. We inform the parents that they don't need to come during the regular PTCs, but we will schedule a special PTC. They would probably ask why. So we would have to give some sort of reason. We can say, we want to be able to discuss more in depth your child's performance in school or in class. And when we do schedule such PTCs, of course, let's have a team. So we have the guidance counselor, you have the coordinator. Sometimes we would bring in the well, principal if needed, if these are major issues, for instance. And then another thing is that provide parents with mid-quarter feedback. So there won't be any surprises by the end of the quarter. Previous experiences, parents became so volatile because they only found out that the child is failing or has failed during the PTC upon receiving the report card. So that is, of course, difficult for the parent. So it would be better, it would be very helpful if we have a mid-quarter report or feedback or something. I remember in my grade school days, we would have a progress report. Each time the teacher gives back a quiz, we'd have that chart and we would color, it's a bar chart. So we would color the score. The thing is, in high school, I don't think they would, not all kids, not all students would give feedback, would tell their parents about their quizzes, right? Even if we say, oh, but all the scores are in Google Classroom. I like, the students should keep tabs of their own scores. It doesn't happen all the time, right? Kids can keep their scores from their parents. So what schools have done, what we have done, is to have that as a spreadsheet. And then there you go. We would send the scores. It's a partial progress report. We would send the scores to the parents mid-quarter. So if the quarter started August, we would send it sometime September, and then or start of October. I think first week of October, and then we'd have PTCs by November. And also, before the PTC, have a system for calling for help when necessary. If you just have 10 minutes, then yeah, I guess that I don't know if there would be heated exchange within 10 minutes. But in case that happens and you can't manage the time and the parent is very upset, there has to be a system wherein the class advisor can call for help. So it's either the GLC, the grade level coordinator, or the guidance counselor can join the meet link, right? I think that's what's great about virtual. Somebody can just join in and uh, mediate, I suppose, right, or help manage the meeting. That may be a bit of a challenge in face-to-face sessions, but at least in virtual, in ODL, it's more manageable. All right, so now moving on, during the PTCs, how do we facilitate and how do we give feedback to students, sorry, to parents? As we mentioned in Mentimeter number one, give a warm welcome, right? Sometimes I would say the language even helps. We can speak in straight English if you're comfortable with that. Sometimes parents feel more comfortable when it's a bit of Taglish or in Filipino, like, "Hi, Mrs. Blanc, kamusta na po? How's the family?" Sometimes that's warmer. I don't know. It's really up to you. What I would do, I would sort of sense how the parent is, okay? And I would use either straight English or a bit of or a bit of code switching. Number two, we always begin with thanking the parents, right? And the guardian for taking the time to join the PTC. So yun yung unang bungad. It's the first thing we always do. We welcome and we say, thank you for taking the time. We know how busy you are. And then next is to set the agenda. So it would be great to have a spiel for this and also the time allotment. So I suppose you have already given guidelines that the parent-teacher conference would only last for 10 minutes. But some parents may not be as mindful, and maybe they just have a lot of concerns they want to share. And so having that spiel for number three would be helpful. So the agenda is for us to get insights from how your daughter is doing at home, or how your daughter is at home. And then number two would for us to share feedback about her performance, and plan ways to move forward. So that would be the probably three things you would like to discuss. And then number four, now normally in the past, what I would do is to start with, but they would ask, how is my child in school? And you start giving feedback, right? And then I realized it would be helpful, perhaps even better, to have parents share the impressions of how their child finds ODL, or how their child is at home. Because from what I've experienced before, I would, so how my child is, how is my child, and I'd give feedback. And then I give, so syempre sandwich, so strengths and then challenges. And then when it comes to challenges, I would say, for example, the behavior is she's a bit rowdy, or she's distracted at in school, for example. This was face-to-face session. She's distracted, she's like this and like that. And then I would ask, how is she at home? That question sometimes um, can be misinterpreted, right? Sometimes it's like asking, what's happening ba at home? Sometimes it can be interpreted that way. And I remember feeling that way when I was asked by the class advisor, Mommy, kamusta ba siya sa bahay? So parang, wait, what are you asking? And then for me, I know probably I have issues, so I became reactive, but it can come across that way, right? So maybe it would be more effective to start by asking parents, kamusta po anak niyo? How is your child with ODL? And questions like this: what's working well, what the child is struggling with, how the child manages synchronous and asynchronous tasks, and overall wellness or well-being. And I think this is helpful because then we can already gauge the parents' insights. That's one, di ba? Number two is how engaged, or in how in sorry how much support does the parent give the child. So it, to some extent, it's somewhat diagnostic already. So you'll have a sense of how, when we understand the child's background and how she is at home, then it will help us understand how the child is in school, right? And we can already think about certain recommendations or support given based on what the parents have shared at the onset there. So this would be helpful. At least the parents already have that opportunity to share. And sometimes we would have parents who say, Miss, kasi wala ako parati sa bahay. Kasi, I'm working full time, and, especially if the parents are frontliners, right? And so they would say, this maybe the caregiver or the aunt or the sibling would just tell them, and so that also tells us, right, the level of support that she's able to give. And so we have to find a solution. If the parent can't be the one to provide the support, then we empower the other family members or maybe significant others to provide the support. So just by asking number one, we can already find a lot of ideas for recommendations. Okay, so moving on, number five now is to give feedback about the student. So this is the part wherein, how do we give effective feedback to parents? As you mentioned in the Mentimeter, it has to be specific and observable. That is true. We share relevant anecdotes and we provide evidence. So at least now it's ODL. So it's easy to pull up evidence, the just make sure, well, it would be wonderful if we have a portfolio for each child, but that's tough if we have like 30 plus 40 plus students. But that is so ideal if you could have that and they build on that. And we're not the ones preparing that. It would be better if it's the students who prepare their own portfolios, right? I know that MC SD Tech, right, does that. So if students have the portfolios and we can just flash that during the parent teacher conference, at least briefly, because we only have 10 minutes. But if we can't do that, then we share relevant anecdotes. I always enjoy hearing anecdotes about my child as a parent. So, my daughter is very shy. She's confident at home, but she's really shy in school. She wouldn't recite. And then and I know that, and the teacher also knows that. And then one time the class advisor said, sabi nga po ng science teacher, she really knows the answer. It's just that she doesn't recite. And I told that to my daughter, and that she just really beamed with pride. See, that short anecdote really encouraged my daughter. So the same thing with us, diba? So we see we're with their students as class advisors. We see them in our class, but we don't see them all the time. That's why when we have the team meeting and we get to share anecdotes of how the students are, and we'll be able to write notes, and we can share that during parent teacher conferences. We focus on academic and social skills, the working style, and their behavior. As I mentioned, now we can also add metacognitive skills and self-regulation skills. We identify the difficulty and follow it up with what works. As I mentioned earlier, it becomes problematic when we just say, "Ay, mommy, she has difficulty in math." Tapos, right? So it can't be just that way. Like what you said in Mentimeter, it has to be specific and objective. And then we say what worked, right? So here's an example. When we say your child is struggling in math, or then instead of saying your child is just struggling in math, which is vague, then we go, your child confuses or interchanges whatever, say the operations or fractions, numerator, denominator. And then we can even, make it better by saying she finds it hard in analyzing the required operation and solving word problems. She got it when I asked her, but she got it when I asked her to draw the story, like when she imagined it or she broke down the word problem and circle keywords from the word problem. Although I know circling the keywords isn't always the best way to do it because you still have to understand the big picture. But this is just an example. We don't end with the problem. We also say, what did we do to address that? Or at least what have we tried that worked? Another example is here, she has poor reading comprehension skills. What does that mean, right? So we can say, your child can recall details well, but tends to use her background knowledge when making inferences. It was helpful to ask her to refer back to the text to review her answers. So this means that when we know what worked for that particular child, then we know that we cared for that child, diba? Because we spent time finding out where the problem is, what the problem is, where it's coming from, and how to address that. Another example, oopsies. Okay, your turn now. If we want to say that she is distracted, so instead of saying she is distracted, can you type a statement in the chat box to make this more specific? Remember, we want specific and observable. It would be better if there's a relevant anecdote. So come up with a relevant anecdote. We focus on academic and social skills. We identify the difficulty and follow it up with what works. So in the chat box, she is distracted. How can we rephrase this to make it specific and observable? Go ahead po. 1 minute. Noted, Miss Sof, about the special students with special concerns. Thank you. Okay. I'm waiting for your answers. How do we make she's distracted objective? What do we observe that would show that she is distracted? Anyone? Sometimes the waiting is the hardest, right? Especially in a virtual setup. At least in face to face, you would see people, right? And they start avoiding your, you start avoiding eye contact. But here, no choice. You just have to wait. Game. Gina, it takes her time to respond when I call her. Excellent. Miss Jaliza, I call her to recite, but it takes a couple more times of calling her attention before she responds. Yes. Miss Carmela, she always wants to share using her mic without using the raise hand button. Yes, di ba? Especially the ones who are so impulsive and excited, they just unmute their mics. Whenever I ask her questions, she would tell me that she was not able to catch what the question was. Teacher Ina, hello. She draws on her whiteboard during discussion. Okay, class is over, and yet she's still there.
CR lang ako.
I know that so well,
CR lang
right?
ako.
Okay, I get that. There you go. So wonderful. It's not enough. I
Ano,
would say it's not enough to say she is distracted, and sometimes maybe, yeah, we say she is distracted, and then we go say, all right. She switches off her camera during synchronous classes and does not respond when called, right? I would also, I don't know if you experienced this, I would have students, because their cameras are on, right? You would see that reflection, that glare that would suddenly, that light on their face, diba? The reflection on their face. Like when you call them, suddenly the glare would change and they go, wait, what? And yeah, obviously they're distracted. Okay. And so there you go. So that's an example of making it specific and objective. How about this one? Another is to avoid judgment of character, right? So an efficient way of giving praise is, or giving feedback is, not to use any judgment of character. So like instead of saying your child is smart or your child is the smartest in class, what is a specific or an objective way of stating this in the chat box, please? Your child is smart. What would be evidence of that? How do we state that? Because we don't want to say that even to children, right? We don't want to say you're so smart. And why is that? Because they are smart and so they're scared to try, because when they make mistakes, that means they're not smart anymore, right? And so uh, educational psychologists would say, praise should be specific to the action and to the effort, right? So here, what do we say when we give feedback about the child being smart? She gives an immediate response when called. There you go. So that's being like attentive, right? How about the others? She was able to solve the problem using a different method that I didn't teach. Awesome. Yes, sir. That's great, right? So somehow the student is intuitive. She has her own way of doing it. I noticed that she has it. Okay. There. See? So these are examples of making it very objective. Your daughter is very reflective and gives good answers, right? I would clarify the good answers, right? What are good answers? So you can clarify that further. So answers that are spot on or that reflect critical thinking there. She leads group works really well there. So yeah, so she displays leadership qualities. I love how your daughter gives her thoughts during discussion. That's great. Now that phrase, I love, I like. Yeah, that's making it, di ba? Guidance counselors, what do you call that? Humanistic messages, ba? Right? When we use the I there, so that means we are happy that their child does those things. Okay, she was able to come up with an essay that specifically showed evidence that she is aware of social issues. I can see she's passionate about her advocacies. Excellent. See, di ba, if a parent hears that, sobrang nakakakilig for a parent. Like, really, my child can do that? Versus, she got a 98 in this essay. Now, what does that 98 mean? See, so there. So when we prepare for our parent-teacher conferences, we have to have those notes. Concrete evidence, concrete observation. So thank you so much. So here's an example. Your child has very high scores in. So if you want that kind, if you want to go that way, another would be the insights she shares in class are thought-provoking that reflect critical thinking skills. There. So looking at the chat box, she volunteers to explain solutions in class, Miss Love. She explains solutions with confidence and clarity. There. Wonderful. Okay, how about this one? She lacks motivation. Your child is lazy. We don't ever want to hear that. And I'm sure nobody in MC ever uses these, right? Or says these. Maybe she lacks motivation. Sometimes we probably say that. But your child is lazy. I know you don't. But the motivation, how do we know that the child lacks motivation? Did we measure motivation? Diba? Did we conduct a survey? We would say, "Oh, but you can tell." But better to make it specific. What exactly did we see? Okay, in the chat box, tell me, how does it look like when the child lacks motivation? Miss Leah, she failed to submit an X number of her requirements. That's correct. Awesome. That's right. How about the others? Or is that it for motivation? Maybe participation in Miss Christine. She always comes late in class. Yes. Miss Trisha, she did not attend classes for a number of days without any excuse lettered, right, from the parents. Okay, I observed that your daughter submits her requirements beyond the due dates. There you go. So see, it's objective versus she lacks motivation because when the teacher goes, she lacks motivation. Boom! Again, that's a reflection on me as a parent. So why is she not motivated? Am I not motivating her enough? Am I putting undue pressure on my child? What's wrong? Is it me? So a parent may react that way. But if we say the behavior very specific, and then the parent, right, would just understand that, okay, this is what you see, and how then can we move forward. Sir Carlo, your child needs to be reminded to do activities. That's true. Okay, so similar to your response, I would say your child submitted asynchronous tasks late and oftentimes appear to have been done haphazardly. In other words, minadali, it's rushed, right? Okay, and then after reporting about the student's difficulties, we also share about what support has been given or what worked, right? So, like what I said, we don't just end with the challenges. At some point during the quarter, we should have tried some sort of technique. We should have, hopefully, we would have provided some sort of accommodation or support, right? So that we know how to help the child. And so when we give feedback, we can share that with the parents. So examples of support would be student consultations, one-on-one assistance, right? Extra time, for instance, if possible. Let's say like in HEU, right? We're very flexible with the deadlines, submissions, because we know that it's just challenging times. And so instead of just submitting it on this due date, they actually have a month or even 2 months for the GP, for instance, to submit the requirements. So we can provide that leeway and also explore peer support and buddy system. I'm sure you also have other ways of providing accommodations and support to the students. All right. And so let's have some examples. Okay, here you go. So we would say the same child, right? So she switches off her camera during synchronous classes and does not respond when called. That's the problem. Now, what did you do about it? I've spoken to her after class about this and made sure that I called her to recite. There, so we don't end with a problem. We say, what did we do about it? It's a problem if we didn't do anything about it, right? So if we'll have the PTCs next week, let's make sure that we brainstorm with the team and identify ways to, how to help the child. Now, sometimes we really we get stumped. like we've tried everything and it still hasn't worked, right? And we have to be honest about that. So we brainstorm, but we also have to be honest. And I think for such children, that's when we would have, or we would need special PTCs with the child, because we would need more time to discuss with the parents. Okay, and number six, I'd like to highlight that we work on problems and challenges together. Remember, you said that parents are our partners and they are experts when it comes to their children. And so it's important for us to value their voice and we ask them for ideas. We avoid telling parents what they should or should not do. That's why some parents get very defensive and reactive, right? Especially when, you know, remember when I was a young class advisor, like fresh grad class advisor, and I go, Mrs. like this, you should. And then, the parent just reacted like, how are you telling me what to do? Are you even married? Do you even have children? Do you even understand my background? See, so it may not work well for all parents. So it would be best if we use nga active listening, because through active listening, right, we ask questions, we invite them to give their ideas first, because they're experts. They know these things naman eh. Maybe not in terms of content, but in terms of helping in managing their children, right? And so from there, from the ideas that they give, then we can brainstorm, we can give our own and hopefully come up, right, with a recommendation or an action plan. Fredericks also said to use a solution focused approach. So when we say solution focused, right, we focus on the solutions. There's that problem talk. So we allow them to talk about what their concerns are. That's the first part. And then later on, through questions, through active listening, we can ask questions such as, what have you tried what have you tried that worked so far? What hasn't worked? What can we try together there? So those are some of the questions that we can ask during the parent teacher conference. Here's an example. Okay. We noticed that your child submitted asynchronous tasks late, oftentimes appeared to have been done haphazardly. This was observed in math, science, and AP, but she submitted on time for the rest of the subject. So there, that's the objective feedback, specific and objective feedback. Well, we remind the students about the requirements and deadlines. This one now says what steps do we do, or sorry, what steps did we take to remind the child or the students. And so now we want to ask, how does she keep track of her requirements at home? Right? There you go. I would even go further, like we remind the students about the requirements and deadlines. That's for the entire class. But is there anything specific that we're doing for that particular child? I personally would send emails to students with, a lot of missing tasks. And there, I would send them emails. Sometimes, if necessary, I would even put links to the guidelines, especially for those who are really with challenges, because, they do need that extra support. And through active listening, we ask additional questions like, what do you think about? Some parents kasi would say, I don't know talaga teacher. I mean, you're the teacher, tell me. I doubt. There are parents who would say that, but there are those who might be clueless. Like they really don't know what to, what recommendations to give. And so we can ask, what do you think about? Instead of saying, Mr. Mrs. like this, Mr. and Mrs. Why don't you no, Mr. and Mrs. Blank do this. Instead of saying that way, you can say, what do you think about? So that's like giving them that option and it's empowering them to make that choice. How about we explore, right? Does she have like a whiteboard, for instance, or a peer buddy so that they can, study together, whatever. What if do you think this will work? Some of our parents have tried. There you go. So this is also interesting. So rather than it coming from you, you can actually use what you've heard from other parents and what you've heard from your colleagues. So some of our parents have tried this, right? And then share the tip. And what do you think about that? So here we see that we are working with the parent. So instead of us telling them, prescribing what needs to be done, we are involving them in the process of finding a solution and coming up with recommendations. And during the PTC, of course, we set the goals and plan of action to move forward. So we end now with, of course, summarizing. So Mr. and Mrs. Blank, we agreed that blank, 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 if there are action points. And then agree on how to monitor the child's progress, whether it's via email, Viber, or other official communication channels. And then after the PTC, consolidate your notes. So remember, we have that Google spreadsheet, right? So in the last column, that would be for the PTC notes, if it won't be an issue in terms of confidentiality. So the class advisor now can just fill in PTC notes, maybe just bullet points, just so that it's more manageable for everybody, and then make it accessible for the teacher so that they get to see also what the highlights are of the PTC. Consider sending PTC notes to the parents via email, and then practice self-care. That's so important, right? De-stress after the PTC for us. So let me now share with you, we're moving on to the last part. Let me share with you now PTC scenarios. So for unrealistic parent expectations, we first invite the parents to share their expectations, right? That's the first part. Then we invite parents to reflect by asking, how does your child feel about this? Kasi di ba, go si mommy or si daddy, helicopter parenting, for example, practicing helicopter parenting. And so we would ask, how does your child feel about this? Does your child have the same goals as you? How do you know? What other strengths and interests does your child have? Again, we ask questions for them to reflect. 10 minutes, hopefully you can do it. But if you can't, then if another meeting needs to be scheduled, then let's do that. What about parents who are overly competitive? Again, invite the parents, use active listening, and we say, I see that excellent grades matter to you and your family. Yes, good grades are important in getting into a good college. Then we ask a question. Okay, invite parents to reflect by asking, but how do you think his or her competitive nature affect her emotionally? Then we can state our observations. Sometimes because parents are blind to certain things, right? They don't get to see that perspective, that side of their child in school. And so if the parent has different observations compared to ours, then we state our own observations objectively. We would say, she brags about her grades at home, which may show that she can handle things well. That is a paraphrase, it's a reflection. And then we move on to say, but in school, we, okay, not just you don't just say I, but we notice that she seems afraid to make mistakes to the point that she cries whenever she doesn't get a perfect score. We becomes powerful because you know that it's not just you reporting as a class advisor, but that because you were able to speak with your co-teachers, then it's a collective observation, and then there's more power to that. So we say that, right? We state the observation and then invite ideas from the parent. We would comfort her and say that mistakes are there to learn from them, but she's still upset. So that's what we did. Have you observed a similar behavior at home, and how did you handle it? Do you see the steps? We reflect, we state our observation, and then we also invite them. We say what we did, the support that we gave, and then finally, we invite them to give suggestions. And we end with plan of action to address the concern. And so, in summary, all right, we see, we perceive, and we understand that parents are our partners and our experts. We practice effective communication skills and active listening. We invite parents to share their insights and solutions. We give feedback that is objective, specific, and observable. We come prepared with evidence, with team notes and anecdotes, and we agree on recommendations and action plans. And now it's time for our workshop. Okay. Yeah. So as mentioned earlier, given the things that we have shared, that we've discussed, what will you do differently now in the way you will facilitate PTCs? And how can you and the team prepare for the coming PTC? So um, if you can, if you're, share a link of your output or share it via this email so that you'll be able to share it. So this is the workshop. I'll be sharing the link in a bit. So what will you do differently in the way you will facilitate PTC? So you can list down the things that you will do differently before the PTC, during and after, maybe just a bullet or two. Okay. And then how will you prepare for the upcoming PTCs? All right. And so, sir, we can have the breakout session, maybe just for 10 minutes, unless there are questions.
Thank you.
Ayusin ko lang po yung time. Kanina po naka 15.
Okay,
Yeah. Thank you.
Opening po in 3, 2,
All right. So in the breakout rooms, I think you'll be divided by grade and level. Yeah.
Yes, and the
And I will
guidance
send the link.
counselors will
The guidance
facilitate.
counselors have the link already, right, Miss
Yes,
Marite?
yes, they
Okay.
do.
Just in case, I will also share the link in the chat
Chat
box.
box. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. For those who are watching via YouTube, um, yes. So you can just share on your own, right? You can make a list of
Uh,
the practices. Do they, Miss Marite, do they also have a copy po of the slides?
yes, they do. I think they are now in their breakout groups. So only a few is with us in this
Okay.
plenary.
How about
But I
for
explained
MC
to the
Nuvali?
guidance. MC Nuvali is already has connected through the YouTube,
All
but
right.
they had to leave at around 3:30
I
for their
see.
first Friday mass. That's
Okay.
why we gave them the option to join us at the beginning of the
I see.
lecture. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So we'll just wait 10 minutes, and then when they come back, we also pre-assigned some reporters to share what has transpired in their group, in their
Okay.
small
May
group.
I know, Miss Marite, who will be doing the presentation?
The counselors didn't tell me, but what I did, I chose one from the preschool, another one for the grade school, and another one for the high school, so that more or less we can get an overview of how it is done in their respective units.
Okay. Yeah, that's also what I had in mind, so that it's more efficient that way.
Now, for the SD Tech group, they will also be leaving for their first Friday Mass at 4 p.m. So they are now in their breakout session rooms. However, they might not be able to join the reporting. So I did not pre-assign anymore
Okay, no problem po.
a representative for SD Tech.
All right. That's noted.
Yeah, and
Thank you, Miss Marita.
you're welcome.
Candy. Candy.
Ah, yes.
I'll have to leave at 4 also. There's a mass also I have to attend.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Pasensya na, I won't make it to the reporting. But what you said, all the points you gave were very helpful. I think nakakatulong talaga, especially for teachers who'll be conducting online conferences for the first time. We do have some newcomers on board. So I'm not sure exactly what their experience has been with regard to conferring with parents. So I think that what you gave was very helpful.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the
Right.
feedback. Thanks
All right.
also.
Sige, thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Miss
Bye.
Louie.
Sige. Thanks, Marite. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is it okay, Miss Marity? We extend a bit.
Yes,
We'll be quick.
we
We'll
will
be
just
quick about
inform
the
them. Yes.
presentation. Yeah.
Anyway, this the core group, the grade school and the high school, will be the ones benefiting from this session.
Okay. That's great. I want to join the breakout rooms, but sometimes they become shy.
Oo.
But I usually do
Nabubulabog.
that. I
Yes.
usually do that. I really join.
Well,
But, it's such a big group.
if we had more time, because your points, yung reflective questions mo and tasks will make them really think about, what to do, how to prepare. So, it will take time. Maganda sana kung longer discussion, because
Right.
they will be sharing their experience, especially the older
The seasoned,
teachers,
the more seasoned teachers.
seasoned
Yeah.
teachers will be sharing their experiences with the new ones. So often that interaction during face-to-face would really work for the level, for the grade.
Right. I think they can still do as part of the team meeting. Right. So, well, I'll be sharing a copy of the slides at the end.
Oh, thank you.
So they can, it's
You'll
in Google
appreciate
Drive.
that. Mm-mm.
So they can just review that at their own pace. They can reflect
Lalo na
on it
yung
during
mga
the team
bago.
meeting.
Yeah, yung mga bago kasi they can come up with a script, a short
Like a
script.
spiel, right?
Yeah. Just to guide them kasi maano ka sa nervyos mo, minsan wala kang masabi for first timers.
Right. Okay. Sige po, I'll check the...
Sige.
3 more minutes? Yeah. Sige, yeah. I'll join the breakout rooms.
Sure,
Thank you, Miss Marite.
Yes.
Miss Marite, this is Sof. We have teachers in the main room.
Sorry?
We still have teachers in the main room. I'm just gonna ask if they need assistance going to the breakout room.
Sir June, can we give assistance to them?
I think it's Tyran who's gonna be the one to assign.
Tyran ba? Sir Tyran?
Hintay ko lang po kung may mag-PM po.
Apo. Should we, unless you could tell us kung anong grade level po sila ilalagay?
Maybe they can join any group.
Yes po, ganun naman po yung assignment.
They don't have a grade level based. I don't know how to identify.
It's all right, Miss. Baka we don't know if they could hear us also But in case they do, you could click the breakout room at the bottom of your room. If not, please send a message so that we could assign you to your grade level. It will be Sir Tyran who could do the assigning.
All right. Thank you, Miss Sof. Yeah, that's already the announcement for these people who are still here in the main room. I think, Sir June, some of them are getting disconnected and they try to come back to the Zoom room.
Yeah, wala naman po kami
ba
sa waiting room.
Okay. Thank you. Parang we have to extend. Can we extend 5 more minutes, Sir June?
Kasi Tyron po yung ano, yung...
Tyran?
Ako, yung breakout rooms.
Tinatanong ako,
Yes po.
keep
Ini-extend.
breakout rooms open. I-click ko ba ito?
Yes, miss. Kinlik ko lang po.
Okay.
Hello po yung mga co-host.
All right. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I know that was too short. Yes. But we want to keep to the time. So yes, we would probably extend for 10 minutes. I hope you don't mind. Anyway, the next part would already be presentation. I'll be giving a copy of the slide presentation, also the Google slide template, and what's the other one? Oh, and the workshop slides. And so I'll give the link right now so that in your own teams, I suppose you can review that and come up with your recommendations. Okay, may I ask, will be our presenters from the CSC, from the preschool? And I understand there's one from the preschool, the grade school, and high school. Miss Marite, do we know po who?
Yes, Miss Candy. Miss Ignacio, do we have your reporter for the preschool for CSC? If they're not yet ready, maybe we can jump to the grade school. Miss Jane, I think she assigned Miss Charis Garcia. There. Miss Ferrer, are you ready for the CSC?
We have not finished the entire
It's all right.
presentation.
Just share whatever you have talked about.
All right.
That would be great.
Good afternoon. This is what we've shared in CSC. So what will we do differently in the way we will facilitate PTCs? Before the PTC, we will continue to prepare notes or anecdotes for each child. That's what we practice. And during the PTC, we will rephrase the way we say things to the parents, like ask the parents how their child is, and what works for their child, what can we try together. Those are the examples. And we will continue sharing specific and observable feedback, like how we observe the children during classes, even their facial expressions there. Those are the things that we have discussed. Medyo po, madaming ideas siguro, kaya hindi nagkasya ang time. That's all po. Thank you.
Yes, but Miss Ferrer, you can also document everything that transpired in your small group, because you'll be able to refer to these notes further as you prepare for the PTC. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Miss Ferrer.
Thank you, Teacher Rain.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe we can jump to the grade school. I think Miss Charis Garcia was assigned to report.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Hi, Miss Charis.
Hi, Miss. All right, so just like the CSC people weren't able to finish the entire presentation, we only finished the first slide, but at least we were able to get a glimpse of the PPC, because we only had 10 minutes, and for our PPC, we only have 10 minutes for each parent. So yeah, so nice to have an experience. So before PPC, we plan to actually go back to the basics, because like what Miss Kendy said, what we do is, or was last school year, was to prepare a spreadsheet file or a docs file wherein we can log in our concerns and our observations of the students. But it would be okay or better to just prepare a notebook, something that you can hold on and something that you can write on, so that the homeroom advisor would be guided of the students' attendance and space for notes wherein the teacher could write in the concerns of the parents. Then after that, we could also request the students, if time permits during homeroom check-in, to at least write a reflection paper or a reflection slide, reflection Padlet, reflection Jamboard of their performance during the first quarter, and flash it, present it to the parents so that they would have a background of how their daughters are in the perspective of their daughters. And lastly, we could also review the submissions of the homeroom activities. So when we say homeroom activities, we have Jamboards, Google Slides. We also have Padlets wherein the students will just write in their reflection, um, their sharing their emotions, and we could from there we could actually see the background of the students' feelings. And kasi the students, not all students are very expressive in terms of switching on their microphone or switching on their camera. So at least those who are not comfortable really sharing, at least the teachers are able to dig into the students' feelings and to the students' well-being. Then during the PTC, we still plan to take notes in the logbook and going back to basics. And after the PTC, what we can do is we can just type it in our Google spreadsheet or Google Docs. Next is we plan to share how teachers help in assisting the students in addressing certain concerns. What we do kasi, yes, we do reflect, then we also give our observations, and then we jump to plan of action. We forget to share our intervention as the parents in school. So we plan to, sana kaya ng 10 minutes no, to share the observation and what the teachers have done or are doing to help the students improve. And lastly, if we go back to face-to-face, probably to show the best works of the students in the classroom, what we do is we have a certain area in the classroom where we post the best work, but I think it would be nice to just post all the works, best or not, so that the parents will have something to look at and something that they could feel proud of their daughters. Next, after the PTC, ito talaga we forget. I don't know if we forget or we opt to forget to rest or de-stress after the session. Lalo na the PTC would be the whole day of talking and coffee, and the break in between would only be recess and lunch. So I think the homeroom advisor, all the teachers actually deserve to rest after the PTC. Then it could also be good to consolidate all the feedback from the parents so that the teachers in the level would be able to know the concerns of the level as a whole and plan also as a level what to do or the plan of action for those concerns. And it would also be best to relay the concerns to the people involved. So if it is a subject-related concern, to the supervisor. If it is about the student's emotions or well-being, relay it to the guidance counselor. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia.
Thank you very much, Ms. Garcia. That was so comprehensive. Also for the preschool. Thank you.
So we move on to the high school. Ms. De Dios. I'm not sure who was assigned to give the report.
Yes po, good afternoon. So
Yes,
for the high school, we
Okay.
have Miss Jaja Lim of grade 12.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lim.
Okay po. I'm just gonna have to wait for it. There we go. Thanks, Miss Lim. Other Miss Lim. Yes, okay. So for ours naman po, we were able to finish thanks to the power of teamwork. Yes. Okay, let me just. I can't see it properly. Wait lang po. Okay, there we go. So for before the PTC po, well, we took into consideration po what we learned, and that is to make notes on each student's behavior in the online class nga po. And we also, one of my teammates also said that if there are concerns from the students themselves that they want to bring up to their parents, that would be best din po. Kasi in a way po, we teachers act as bridges in terms of communications. And we really like that. At the same time din po, of course, it's important to check the students' records. Of course, we have to be ready in terms of absences and whatnot, because sometimes the parents are working nga po, working in another country, or they're too busy. So at the same time, we can also inform them about their performance in the classes. At the same time din po, we have to make a slide, welcome parents, of course, to make them feel, of course, now we are ready for them. And of course, it's important to communicate with other subject teachers, and we have to be ready we have to take input from our teammates, from our peers, para at least po, mas ready po tayo. And finally, before the start of the PTC, let us ask for the guidance of the Lord. Take a deep breath, practice mindfulness. We've had many seminars about that. And of course, pray to the Holy Spirit for wisdom and guidance. Yan. Very important yun. During the PTC naman po, of course, it's important that we also listen more to the parents. Na instead of us just always talking, we also have to allow them to talk about their daughters at home. Because of course, just like what was said a while ago, they are the experts in terms of their daughters. Of course, let's also focus on the specific behaviors rather than descriptions where judgment can arise. But at least po, objective, and we can focus more on improving how we can handle their daughters. At the same time, of course, we should opt to ask whether get to know the learning environment of the students, ask about the learning space, the Wi-Fi connection, and the specific responsibilities of their daughters at home. But at the same time, we can make a better plan as to how to help their daughters better. And finally po, after the PTC, it's important to also work on integrating what we've learned from the parents, as this is a partnership. We also learn from the parents as well. They can help us improve how we can help their daughters. At the same time, it's also important to send an email regarding the action plan, especially with concerned students, as there are many students who are struggling, especially in the areas of mental health. And finally, also take note of the things that should be, or things or concerns that should be discussed with the parents for proper monitoring. And at the same time, this can help us follow up in the next PTC, as we are the secondary parents during the whole year. So it's best to follow up and always keep ourselves on track with these files. Oh, also, we actually just utilized some of the before slides, and we just organized it in such a way. So just to reiterate, step 1, get to know the students' concerns, get ready with your files. Step 2, of course, get your PTC stuff ready. Of course, make sure that you are ready to talk to the parents. And finally, don't forget to pray. Pray for the Lord's guidance, as of course, yun ang talagang panlaban natin minsan sa sa experiences that we will have. So yun, thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lim and the grade 12 team. Again, very concrete. I like the part that we also ask the students, right? What is it that they want to communicate to their parents? Because we're bridges. I like that. That's something something I learned from you. Because yes, sometimes students are not able to open up, right? But because we are somehow objective, we're outside the family, then we'll be able to express that to the parents. Okay, so thank you very much. All right, one last part now in Mentimeter. Share with us your aha moment. So I'm sad that we're not able to share the outputs or the workshop out from the other levels, but I trust that yes, you were able to fill them up. So please, just for the next 2 minutes, please share with us your aha moment. So like, what's that key takeaway from this session? So again, not everything's new. A lot of it probably is just affirms your current practices, but there might also be some key moments, right? So please share with us in menti.com, and I'll also share the output with Ms. Marite. I can download that and share it with you. And then finally, I will also share the lecture slides. Okay, I used my personal Gmail. Here you go. So in this in this folder, you will see the slide presentation. Okay, I think the PDF copy. And then MC webinar, so a copy of the workshop slides, and then a sample class profile in case you need it. Okay. And can you are you able to access the files? Can you give me feedback, please? If you're able to view and download, please let me know. And with that, I think we're done. Miss Marite, we can open the floor now. Thank you, Miss Mary Grace, Sir Edwin. Okay, we can open the floor now for Q&A if there's any.
We won't view the Menti.
Oh, yes. Yes, we will.
How do you call that?
Yes, the slide. Yeah, we can. And then while doing
for
that,
their takeaways. Yeah.
Yes,
for their.
And then while doing that, others might have questions, so we can do a simultaneous thing.
We can also open the floor for some comments or questions. just type in the chat box, and Miss Tin de Dios and Miss Ignacio will be helping me with managing the chat box. So
Here, what is your aha moment from this webinar? There you go. Sorry, I wasn't presenting it. I didn't go to the next slide. So here you go. What is your aha moment from this webinar? Maybe let's have a minute for this. And then the others, you might have questions already.
Good afternoon, teachers. If you have questions, we encourage you to use the chat box, or you can unmute your mic.
Miss Tin, Miss Ganapin has raised her hand.
Hello po. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Miss Ganapin.
What's on my mind right now? Is it good practice to have the daughter with the parent during the PTC?
Thank you for that question. I would say it depends.
Okay.
You would have to agree as a team, as a unit, but it has worked for me. Just recently, I had a student, grade 6, had a student. She always switch off her cam. She doesn't reply when called. The class is over. She's still in the meet. And then her classmates would say, Miss, she's active in Discord. So obviously she was distracted in playing. The class advisor sent an email to the parent, but it still didn't work. So what happened then was we scheduled a special PTC with the mom. It turns out the daughter's just right there beside her because they're working in one, common room. And then we decided, okay, why don't you just call your daughter and just listen in? And that was actually helpful. But of course, we have to be very careful. Again, we have to be objective. I think we have to be careful because we don't want that tension between the parent and the child. The parent that would say, see, I told you, la 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 la. Okay, that's one thing that can be problematic. But if we can handle it well, it will actually be very helpful, particularly for older students, junior high school, for instance, because then we report this is what we observe, and the child now will be able to give her feedback. This is what I am experiencing. This is the reason why, and this is the help that I need. And so now the parent, I suppose, because you're there as the class advisor, with the other teachers, the parent now will become more objective and become more, I would say, we would restrain that emotion. And so the parents will probably be able to listen more objectively. So it might work. You just have to prepare for it. Does that answer your question, Miss Gina?
Yes po, thank you.
Thank
Because
you
I
also.
told my students, maybe it would be good that you be with your mom during PTC.
Yes, actually, in international schools, they have what they call the student-led conference, which means so the
Okay.
first term is parent-teacher. Second quarter, that would be the student-led conference. So it's the student now who would have the portfolio. This is face-to-face, would have the
Yeah,
portfolio and discuss with the parents. Mom, dad,
yeah,
this is what I learned. So.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then the teachers now can give feedback. It just needs to be planned po, Miss Gina, but it
Okay,
can be done.
okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you also. Are there other questions? Let me just have a look at our Mentimeter. Okay, there are only few answers, like be specific, be compassionate. Parents notice when you take time to mention very specific anecdotes. My aha moment is when I realized that I should always be more specific in giving feedback and avoid labeling, giving judgment. Maging okay din ang lahat. Respectful, mindful communication. There you go. Okay? And so with that, I think we're okay. We're done. Thank you so much for spending the afternoon. I hope it's been a fruitful and a productive afternoon. Thank you, Miss Marite. Back to you.
Yes, thank you. On behalf of the BEU, we would like to thank Miss Candy for the insightful and very relevant talk. Surely, our teachers will be more confident not only in giving feedback about their students, but also in conducting virtual conferences with parents. So we would like to, or I would like to take this opportunity also to thank Miss Andrea of the preschool or CSC, Miss Jane and Miss Tin de Dios, our guidance supervisors, for all their help and support. And thank you everyone for your active participation. Yes, Miss Candy.
There's a question here.
I'm
It
sorry.
was sent directly. Sorry, I just saw
Okay.
it.
Yes.
How can
Go ahead.
childless teachers respond to parents' contention that because of this, we don't really know what we're talking about or asking of them? Yeah. The answer to that is, again, we invite solutions from them. We invite the parents, invite them to suggest their ideas. And we would also, that's one, right? We invite ideas from them. Number two, that's why the team meeting is important, because it's not just you saying it. So you don't say, Mr. and Mrs. Blank, I think. It's no longer I. We would say, we think, because we met as a team. This is the team's recommendation. See, so that matters a lot, because you are being supported by your co-teachers, by your colleagues. And the third one is, we can say what other parents have done, right? And you do learn a lot. Learn a lot of tips from other parents. And so that's another way for you to share it. Okay? There. So let me check now, Miss Marite, if there are other questions. I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So thank you. Let me continue. Sorry. So there's another one, Miss Candy. No, okay. So so thank you everyone for your active participation. Just one request, kindly fill out our evaluation form. Miss Angel will be posting the link in the chat box. This will greatly help us improve our webinars and our sessions, so that we can be more of service to all our teachers. We can really help you and our students better. So with that, let us pause now for our closing prayer, to be led by Miss Andrea Ignacio. Miss Ignacio.
Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord, in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, as we conclude the seminar, we once again lift up our hearts to you. Thank you for giving the gifts that we have been present within this act of service. As we leave this seminar to proceed to our designated tasks, may your grace be with us as we fulfill our duties and responsibilities. You taught us to love, to be humble, and to see you in others. May we perceive your face in each of our students, the parents of our students, our colleagues, and the people around us. May we serve you through them and love them as you have loved. Amen. Miriam of Nazareth,
teach us your ways and lead us to Jesus.
In the name of the Father, the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Happy weekend, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone, and have a restful weekend.